Catalyst for Change then is a change program, and the way that we set it up is to recognize that the target audience that we want to influence here starts at the top. We need to get senior managers to acknowledge that they can make improvements to the performance of their business and the way their organization thinks and acts by accepting some new truths about their business, and to reflect on those truths and to diagnose and understand where they are and to make improvements and action plans as the consequence of that. So really the journey that we're taking senior managers through, and then middle managers, is an exercise to diagnose and, where have they got to, what's their maturity. So we have benchmarking tools for maturity so that we can question those things, raise conversation about it. And once we understand that level of maturity, what we then want to do is to get the stakeholders themselves to come up with the answers, to suggest those answers, because that inclusion in finding the outcome means that we're not acting on them. They are doing this for themselves. Our job is simply to steer that journey. But when you get the grassroots of an organization included in a change program like this, a very important step is then to take a step back with the management team and to mirror that back, so that the senior managers can really take on board what's happening in their business. And there has to be that acceptance of there is a problem, or there could be an improvement, before they start to take it seriously and actually start to act on it and own it for themselves. The steps that we've got to get through is we've got to have a form of diagnosis and an understanding of what the maturity level is. We've got to include all of the stakeholders that are related to this, the middle managers, even maybe the workforce, it could be partners, participating in this activity. And then we've got to read it back to the management team to get them to accept these things are happening in their business. It's their business this is happening to, and that they need to do something about it. Once we get that acknowledgement and acceptance, it's a pretty straightforward journey, you would hope and think, because we need to measure things. So in many respects, if we had a single digit that explained performance of behavior or the health of culture or the effectiveness of teams, that would be great. But we don't really have that single digit. But if you don't measure these things, they just don't happen. They get forgotten after the workshop. So you've got to develop ways to measure the outcomes that you're driving towards. And of course, that's not easy when it's about attitudes, behaviors, belief systems, habits. So what we've come up with is a program to actually train middle managers, and also to train the head of this discipline to be able to review with managers where they are on their ability to manage well. And that affords us a couple of economies as well, because very often organizations that are interested in inclusion are equally interested in customer experience and other aspects of attitude and behavior they want to improve on within their culture. And so we can blend those things together in these reviews and assessments, but more importantly, we can get a measurement of health. And also we can remediate any situations where people can get help to improve their ability as managers. I don't think there's any other great way of measuring these things other than that type of interview with somebody that understands the subject well, and can mark the managers on their performance. So that is important. But equally, what we need to aspire to do is not to see this as a critique of management skill or capability. It has to be built around developing managers to become better leaders and managers. One of my favorite things that came out of an Otto Sharma book was that the Indonesian stem of the term leader is to die. And that kind of works for me as what leaders and managers need to be nowadays, because you need to leave the ego at the door, and you need to be a better manager and leader by getting the most out of your people and seeing your ambition through them, not through yourself. That's not easy when you've got managers that have been promoted for their technical skill or their discipline. That means not everybody that is a manager has this aspiration to be a people leader, a human, a human conduit of skill and capability and knowledge, of empathy. But if you're going to have an inclusive environment, you have to have empathy within the managers and understanding. You have to have it. If you don't get that, then every time one of these conflicts happens within the day to day, it's going to turn out the wrong way. It's really important to get that knowledge into the managers, but it's also important to measure the progress that you're making. So Catalyst for Change then is a change program that looks to, in the shortest space possible, move the dial on the health of the culture, the performance of teams, and the quality of customer experience and stakeholder experience. So we're taking interventions, initiatives, steps in our process to steer executive teams and coach and nurture their audiences to get the best result for the organization. And that happens principally on three major planning steps, but also exercises to diagnose and measure the performance of the organization today, to build new ideas as to the future of tomorrow, and to read back what's going wrong, what's not happening, that should be happening, to managers that have got to take accountability for those actions.